The following sermon was recorded at Tri-State Worship Center at The Point. Tri-State Worship Center is a church of God founded in Southern Ohio, where we encourage the saints, help the hurting, and embrace all people. Watch, listen, and allow Pastor Terry Wagner to help you find your path to enlightenment.
For greater things have yet to come, and greater things are still to be done in this city.
All right, guys, good morning. I'm so excited to be here with you. My name is Jimmy Lemon. I'm one of the pastors at Cross Community Church C3 just down the road. And I don't know how much you guys know about our church, about what we do, but if you know nothing else, know that you have a fan in C3 at Tri-State Worship Center. We love you guys. We love Pastor Terry. Last time I was here speaking on a Sunday night, I made the mistake of getting up here and telling a few wisecracks about PT, and you guys did not like it at all. I got booed off the stage, so I will not make fun of Pastor Terry while I'm here. I guess I'll just have to make fun of him in person next time I see him. And we're good friends with Pastor Terry. He's helped us out a lot. We really look up to him and are great friends with him. And we're so excited for what God's doing here at your church, just with the ministry you guys are doing, the people you're reaching. So excited for your building project. I'm really excited for you guys with that. We just finished one of our own just a year ago, so we know how exciting that can be. We also know how stressful, how kind of intimidating and scary that can be at the same time. We know kind of the road you guys have ahead of you, so we're praying for you, and man, we're really just excited for you. So it's really an honor for me to be here this morning. But I do know this. I know probably without a shadow of doubt that everyone in here has been stressed at some point in their life. Anyone ever been stressed before? Anyone? A couple of you didn't raise your hands. You gotta tell us a secret. How many of you were stressed getting to church this morning? Like stressed just waking up, just super stressed today? Yeah, stress, man. It can get to you, right? We're going to take a few minutes, just like 30 seconds here. I want you to look at your neighbor, someone in your pew or someone down your row or whatever, and tell them some of the things that just stress you out. Just share a few things that just stress you out in life. And it can't be the preacher that's making you talk to your neighbor or your neighbor. You have to come up with something All right. Let me see if I can guess some of the things you said. How many of you said your kids? Your kids stress you out? Kentucky drivers, West Virginia drivers, and things are driving, stress you out. School, tests, those of you still in school stressing you out. We got a couple of hands up in the back. Job, anyone's work just stress them out? Anyone's wife stress them out? Don't raise your hand, you'll get in trouble. Your husband stress you out? Yeah, our spouse, family can stress you out. Stuff in church can stress us out. There's just so many things that can stress us out. If you're still in school sports, I remember just being stressed out about football and basketball when I was a kid. How many of you here, who here knows what the most miserable city in America is? Anyone know who the most miserable city in America is? New York? Mississippi? This guy said it right here. Huntington Irons National, our little triple metro area here. We're the most miserable people in the world, in America. Congratulations, guys. We did it. We're number one. Most miserable people in America. Literally, it's like a study they do. They grade you on a bunch of stuff, and we're just miserable. We hate our lives. We hate each other. On one hand, it's kind of sad. It's because we're all miserable. On the other hand, if you think about it, it's really kind of exciting as a church because we get to minister to just a bunch of just hurting, miserable people. We get to share the gospel. We get to share God's love to them. So that should encourage you, kind of motivate you as you serve here at church and what you're trying to do as a church. And just a sidebar with that, I shared this with first service. One of the things that we talk a lot about at C3, there's a statistic back in like 2010. I think it was the last time they did the census and all that. There were 45,000 people in Lawrence County, not the Tri-State, not Huntington, Lawrence County, Ohio. 45,000 people who aren't associated with church. So there's a lot of people in our area, a lot of people you rub shoulders with every day that you can minister to, that you can love, that you can show God's love to. So let that kind of be a motivator for you. But we're stressed out. In that study, check this out, what it said about Huntington International right here. It said we're the most likely Americans to report physical health problems with exceptionally high rates of diabetes, cancer, chronic pain, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, heart attack, and obesity. I think I just described some of you, but we're that, right? We're overweight, we're unhealthy, we hate our jobs, we're just miserable. And check this out. We're the most likely in America, not just in Ohio or wherever, in America, the most likely in America to say that we're depressed and worried than anywhere else. It said residents also had lower overall evaluations of their current lives and future prospects than respondents than in any other metro area. We live in an area that we're stressed out, man. Money's tight, family issues, we're unhealthy, our loved ones are getting sick, we're getting sick. Man, things aren't going our way. And here's the thing. Here's what I know about you today. There are things that stress you out. There are things that get your blood boiling. There are things that just get on your nerves. And you're like a pop can. I should drink it. I'm kind of thirsty right now. But you're like a pop can. And every time something doesn't go your way, every time something frustrates you, it's like someone shaking that pop can. Just shaking, shaking, shaking. And what happens on the inside of a pop can, there's just pressure that builds up, right? Does anyone want to volunteer to open this for me here real quick? Same lady as first service. You guys, whoever cleans the carpet's like, no, I don't want them to open the... Yeah, what would happen if they opened this right now? Explode. It would make a mess, right? Just go everywhere. I'd be sticky all day because I probably wouldn't wash my hands, but it would be nasty, right? It'd get messy. And that's what happens when you allow stress to take over your life. It just builds up, and sooner or later, stress will make a mess out of your life. There's a guy in the Bible by the name of Cain in Genesis chapter 4, who it's a little bit about stress, but it's more so how he dealt with situations. And because of how he dealt with situations, he allowed his life to become a mess. And what we can learn from him today is that if we live our lives like him, the stress, the things that work us up, the things that build pressure in our lives, eventually if we react the way he did, we will make a mess out of our lives. We will ruin our lives. So let's look at his life today to see kind of what we can learn about how we can learn from how he lived his life. So Genesis chapter 4 verses 1 through 2 says this. It said, Adam made love to his wife Eve, and she became pregnant and gave birth to Cain. Now, if you have any questions about that sentence, ask Pastor Terry. And when he gets back, I'm not going to hit on that. But, there's Adam and Eve, the first first couple. They get together, and they have a son.
72.
And it said, Eve said, with the help of the Lord, I brought forth a man. Later she gave birth to his brother Abel. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. So you have the first sons, the first brothers in the Bible. You have Cain, and you have Abel.
120.
And it says there, it's the kind of the first sibling rivalry because they're a little different, right? Cain is this. He's kind of a gardener. He's a farmer in the sense of he's like planting trees and
3.
He's like my grandpa has tomato plants and cucumbers and peppers back in his backyard. He works with like vegetables 75. And fruits. He's doing that kind of plants and that type of thing. Well Abel's more kind of like your man's man type. He's dealing with animals and cows and sheep and goats. He's killing those for food and different things like that. So they're different. And they kind of have a sibling rivalry. Any of you here have a sibling, little brother, little sister, big brother, big sister? How many have a good, healthy sibling rivalry with your sibling? Anyway, you kind of like, you want your sibling to do well, but not as well as you, kind of type of stuff. You're real competitive. That's how my little sister would tell you that the only reason siblings exist is to cause stress in life. She said, we were actually hanging out with my dad and her last night, and my wife, and she was telling stories to my wife about how I treated her as a little kid, and I promise she probably should have had me put in jail for the ways I tormented that poor girl growing up. But there's that little bit of rivalry there anyway. So I think Cain and Abel probably had that a little bit. So that's what kind of happens is these two brothers, and they're a little bit different, and we kind of see how that'll play out throughout this story. So Cain, he kind of deals with things pretty bad, and it causes some trouble in his life. And the first thing he does when things don't go his way is he pouts. He pouts when things didn't go his way. And that's the first thing that if you want to make a mess of your life, if you want to allow stress to just take over and destroy your life, that's what you need to do. When things don't go your way, just pout. If that's what you want out of life, just pout. Check out what Cain does. It says, in the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, and here's where the twist of the story comes. But on Cain and his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. So here's what happened. Cain and Abel, Cain the gardener, Abel kind of the guy that works with animals, they bring an offering from what they do, from their gifts, from their skills, right? Just like we did this morning with worship. They were worshiping God. Just like if you can play piano like Linda, you give your gift to God, or you can sing or play drums, or even work in the kids ministry if you're good with kids. Part of your worship is serving in that ministry area, right? That's what they do. That's what kind of confuses me about this story a little bit. That's what these two guys do. Abel, God honors God by giving He sacrifices like a goat or a ram or a cow or something, and God's like, you know what? I like that. Well, Abel comes over, and he gives like fruits and vegetables and things like that, and God's like, I don't care for that very much. And let's be honest, no one really wants asparagus as a gift anyway, so that's probably why God was like, nah. So God doesn't accept Cain's offering. And as I've kind of grown up as a Christian, I've read this story, because like most of you, I've probably tried to read through the Bible in a year like 17 times, and I've gotten through like the first 5 chapters of Genesis 17 times, and that's about as far as I get. But I read this story and I think, God, why would you do that? He's given his gifts just like all that Cain's given his gifts, honoring you, trying to worship you with what he has, just like all of us. God, why would you reject that gift but accept Abel's gift? And I've looked at commentary, different things like that, trying to figure out why this happens. And something clicked the last time I read this a few months ago. I realized that I think the reason we don't get to know why God rejected Cain's offering is that Cain didn't stop and ask God why he didn't like his offering. Do you notice what he does? It said, so Cain was very angry and his face was downcast. He didn't stop and say, God, what's up? He just got angry. He started pouting. Actually, the face was downcast is kind of a biblical way of saying he threw a hissy fit, right? That's what Cain does. He doesn't look to God. He doesn't try to figure out what he did wrong. He gets mad and he pouts. We got any pouters in the house? Any pouters? You can be honest. Any pouters? Be honest with me now. Wives, you can lift your husband's hand up. That's fine. Listen, I'll be honest with you. I've been a pouter since the day I was born. And that's my wife. Still to this day, if we're going somewhere, there's going to be a line, or like we have to wait a long time, my wife will just be like, you know what, you just stay home. We don't need to deal with that because we know you're just going to throw a hissy fit. But I have been. You can ask my mom and my grandma a few years ago. She's kind of my grandma is my grandfather's wife, but she's been around since before I was born, so she's pretty much my grandma. She made these scrapbooks of pictures, old photo albums of when we were growing up. And in my photo album she made for me, she included this picture. A cute, like 1 or 2 year old, 2-year-old Jimmy. It's a cute kid, right? Anyone think? No, I wasn't a cute kid. You guys just broke my heart. I'm so sad right now. Yes, I got my sideways cap on. I'm looking pretty fly right there. So listen, at that, I may look cute, but according to everyone, I was a little devil in like a diaper. Like I was nuts. One day, you can tell from this picture where she put "remember that" with the arrow. That's how you know there's a good story involved with this little toy here. One day I'm not old enough to remember this story. I've just heard it 1,000 times. They tell a story like this. One day we went to this magical place called Ironton Hills. You want to remember Ironton Hills, back where B-Dub used to be? If you're too young or new to the area, you didn't get to experience Ironton Hills, you missed out because it was the most magical place on earth. You can have Disneyland, Disney World, whatever. I'll take Ironton Hills any day of the week. I could go there, get my Ninja Turtle action figures, you get a free small popcorn, talk my mom into buying me like a 50-cent icy. It's the greatest place ever. Just love this place. Well, we go one day with my mom and my grandma. We're going through the aisle, and I guess this beautiful lime green dinosaur piano with a bow tie was just standing there. It was probably on the lower shelf to just ruin parents' lives. And I saw it, and I guess I just went nuts for it. I immediately wanted it. And something you need to know about me, I never learned how to play piano. I can't sing, can't play guitar. Tried to learn how to play harmonica once. My dog started knocking it out of my hands just because it's a miserable sound. I'm not musical at all. If I could be, I'd be up here like rocking out and smashing guitars. I'd get into it. I think that's why God didn't give me that gifting, because I get into it a little too much. So I'm not musical at all, but I see this little piano and I want it. So I go to my mom and my grandma and say, hey, can I have this? And what does every good parent do when their kid wants something? Absolutely not. No, you're not having that. So I don't know if any of your kids are like this, but as a kid, I guess I was the type that if you told me the answer I didn't want, I'd just keep asking until hopefully you would answer the right way. So it's like, can I have this? No. Can I have this? So like, throughout all the aisles going down, back and forth, can I have the piano? No. So I'm starting to get, I guess, a little agitated, a little worked up. So I guess as per what was my way of doing things back then, I threw a hissy fit. Now, I guess it wasn't just any normal little kid hissy fit like you see at Walmart or something. I guess I just went into total meltdown mode, like nuclear reaction, like just going nuts, like code level red, like it was nuts. I started laying down in the floor of Ironton Hills, screaming like, I hate you, I hope you die, just going nuts, crying, blood red. And then it wasn't even the normal where she would like pick me up and just like pull me out of the aisle, pull me out of the store. I was like dodging her like I played in the NFL, like she couldn't catch me. I was doing juke moves, just going nuts. Until finally, you know what she did? She bought me that stupid piano. The worst thing she could do, parents do not do that. Because the worst thing you could ever do, because in my mind, for the rest of my life, to this day, I kind of think, you know what? If I throw a hissy fit, I think I might get my way. Like I don't like something at work, I'll just throw a hissy fit right in the middle of a meeting. I'll just get that. But I do. Even to this day, I may not just like cry and scream and go nuts, but I get a little angry. I'll give the silent treatment, especially women. Anyone do the silent treatment? You give the silent treatment stuff. Worst thing you'd ever do, it's a hissy fit, just kind of a subdued one. We get angry. We blow up. We just start pouting, and we kind of have different words for it as adults. But what it is pouting. We're throwing hissy fits. But here's the thing I've learned as I've gotten older. Hissy fits, yeah, they got me my way when I was a little kid. But in the real world, hissy fits don't fix it. Look at the people around you and say, hissy fits don't fix it. Especially to your spouse. They need to hear that. Hissy fits don't fix it. In the real world. Because we think, you know what? I'm going to act this way, and they'll know I'm upset. Yeah, we know you're upset. We just don't care about you. Just go be upset in the corner and cry. We don't care. But that's how we react. And we do like Cain did. When things don't go our way, no matter how big or how small, we pout about it. We get angry. We don't think about anything. We don't think about other people. We just get angry and act like little babies because we don't get our way. And that's what Cain did. And if you want to make a mess, allow stress to make a mess out of your life, that's the first thing to do. Just start pouting and throw a little adult version of a temper tantrum every time you don't get your way. The second thing Cain did to kind of make a mess out of his life was he ignored God. He ignored God. The story goes on and says this. Then the Lord said to Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. Here's what's so awesome about God. God looks down and he sees that Cain, he's not doing too well. One, he kind of messed up a little bit. We don't know why, but he did. And then he just started pouting. His attitude was bad. His heart was in the wrong place. So God, instead of waiting for Cain to come to him, God went to Cain. It's one of the cool things about God, right? He doesn't wait for you to start dealing with you to come back to him and start dealing with you. He'll get you where you're at, right? He'll meet you where you're at to try to warn you. And that's what he does. He said, listen, Cain, I see how you're reacting. I see where your heart is. I see what your attitude is. And he said, listen, that sin in your life, that attitude, this stress, it desires to have you. It wants to control you. It wants to make a mess out of your life. It wants to destroy you. It wants to ruin you, your family, your life's work. It wants to take everything down. God warns him. God's begging him. He said, listen, get your heart right. Get your attitude right. Get things right. God goes to Cain to try to warn him. And Cain pushes him away. Cain ignores him. I don't know about you, but when things get stressful in my life, the first thing I do is turn away from God. The first thing I do is push God away. When life gets busy, when things get hectic, when all these things start happening in my life that stress me out, I don't immediately go to God. That's the first thing that goes in my life. Listen, I work in a church. That's what I do, 40, 50 hours a week, dealing with the things of God. And I need to be an example and all that, I know. But listen, when things get busy, the first thing that goes is my prayer life and my time spending with God. And what's funny, it's not the 30 minutes on Thursday night I watch Big Bang Theory. It's my time with God. It's the first thing that goes, right? Anyone else? You experience that? When things get crazy, when things aren't going your way, when things are falling apart, we just kind of turn from God. And sometimes we'll go through the motion. We'll pray and say, God, I hope you do things. But usually we're saying, God, why don't you fix this my way? Saying, God, I want your will in my life, right? Even when we're going to God, we're not really going to God. And we're kind of shutting him out and ignoring what he wants for our life. That's what Cain did. And I promise you, if you do that, you'll mess up your life. I had one of our leaders at our church last year was speaking, one of our campus pastors. And he had some issues that happened in his life. And he said, you know what, everyone talks about how everything happens for a reason. Anyone ever heard that phrase before, everything happens for a reason? You guys hear that before? How many of you guys have said that phrase to someone before, everything happens for a reason? We do that, right? One thing I thought was interesting, he said, is like, sometimes I can't find a reason. Sometimes I don't know that there's reasons. Sometimes it just seems like we live in a sinful world. We live in a broken world. Sometimes people are just jerks and bad things happen. Or sometimes people get sick and we don't know a reason. But he said something was so great and it stuck with me even a year later. He said, listen, maybe some things don't have a reason. But the cool thing about God is with God, everything can have a purpose. Whether God allows things, whether he calls it, whether or not, I don't know. I can't tell you that in your life. I don't know what you're going through. But I do know this, whatever's stressing you out, there can be a purpose behind it. God can teach you something. God can help you grow in an area. Maybe God wants you to help someone else through a similar situation down the road after you've went through it. I don't know, but God can give it a purpose. But you can never figure out what that purpose could be if you're constantly ignoring God and pushing Him away. So if you want to make a mess of your life, when things get tough, just push Him away. And I promise you'll be on the road to destruction. So Cain not only pouts when things don't go his way, he ignores God when God starts to warn him. The third thing he does is he blames and lashes out at others. He blames and lashes out at others. Here's a part of the story you probably know. It says, "Now Cain said to his brother Abel, let's go out to the field. While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Where is your brother Abel?' 'I don't know,' he replied. 'Am I my brother's keeper?'" Cain's a little sarcastic there, right? Anyone else get sarcastic when they're a little stressed out? Anyone sarcastic at all? Am I just the only sarcastic one? I'm like the king of sarcasm. Cain gets sarcastic. And it said, "The Lord said, 'What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you're under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you. You'll be a restless wanderer on the earth.'" So here we have in the Bible, 4 chapters in, the very first murder. We go from like Genesis 1 and 2, where God created the heavens and the earth, and God created man in His image, to Genesis 3, where the first sin, which was an apple and not listening to God, taking a bite of fruit and not listening to God's instruction. All the way to the very next chapter, the very next generation, we see the first murder. In the words of Ron Burgundy, that escalated quickly, right? Like things just got real bad, real quick. And it was all because Cain didn't know how to deal with the stress. Cain didn't know how to deal with the things that didn't go his way. And so what does he do? He not only blames his brother, but he lashes out at his brother. Listen, Abel had nothing to do with why Cain was messed up. It had nothing to do with his mistake. Abel was probably a great guy, just trying to serve God. He's probably a great brother. But Cain, in his failings, in his stress, he pinned it on his brother. Really quick, do you guys know how long Cain hated his brother? As long as he was able? I'm sorry. But Cain, he did hate Abel. He hated him, and not because he hated Abel. He hated him because of who he was, because of what he was experiencing, because of his own stress. How many times do we do that in our own life? We allow other outside forces to cause us to hurt those around us. A couple years ago, I got married, 2 years ago, this past November. And leading up to my wedding, a lot of people ask me, "Hey, you nervous? You stressed out? Things getting a little crazy?" And you know all the questions you get as you're getting ready to get married. I said, "No, I feel pretty good. I'm pretty happy with my decision. I think I'm definitely getting the better end of the deal here." So I was just kind of excited about it. And I got married in Ironton at my friend's church. He's a youth pastor down there. So we went and got married there. And before the ceremony, I'm getting dressed in my friend's office, and we had some issues with the tuxedo company, the rental company, and we had to go back several times to get refitted because they didn't measure us right, and pants weren't fitting, and the shirts weren't fitting, no one had the right stuff. And at the time I was 350 pounds, so it was hard to find stuff to fit me anyway. So it's just all these things coming together. We finally supposedly get everything set up. We got all of our tuxes right, everything's good. Just a couple hours before the ceremony, I unzip the garment bag or whatever that is the tuxes come in. And I find my shirt and the tie and the vest and the jacket and the shoes and all that. And I look and I'm thinking, there's no pants in here. These people forgot my pants, and I was freaking out. I was like, I'm getting married, I'm about to go out in my underwear in my ceremony. My wife in the wedding dress, I'm just in a shirt and tie and no pants. And trust me, no one wants to see that. It's this is crazy. And of course that place isn't open on Saturdays and all this type of stuff. So I'm freaking out. And I look over to the only other one of my groomsmen who's a similar size. He's a foot shorter than me, but was about the same weight. So the only one that could conceivably wear the same pants that I had. And I looked at him, and I looked down at his pants. Looked at him, looked down at his pants. I said, "You stole my pants." And the guy was like, "What are you talking about?" And I just got a little angry. I was like, "Why in the world did you steal my pants? Give me my pants back." I was going nuts. So a little hissy fit. You can tell I'm a powder. Dude, why'd you steal my pants? And the guy's like, "I have no clue what you're talking about." So I get within 3 seconds of just taking the pants off the guy and putting them on. I'm just going to rip them off. Till I look down, because everyone's just looking at me like I've lost my mind. I was already wearing my pants. True story. Completely true story. So here's the deal. Yes, I was nervous. Yes, I was stressed out. But that stress that had nothing to do with my friend, I took it out on him. I blamed him. I lashed out at him. And as you face stress, whether it's stress at work, you know what the most destructive thing you can do in your entire life is? when you're facing stress at work or at church or through other things, through friends, to go home and take that out on your spouse or on your kids. May not destroy your life quicker than just about anything else. And it'll be slow, it won't happen immediately, but it'll just slowly build up and build up and build up. Or maybe at work, maybe you're having trouble in your marriage and you're kind of miserable and then things are going bad and you're stressed out. So you go to work or to church or with your friends and you take it out on them and no one wants to be around you because you're miserable and you're stressed out and you're just blaming and lashing out on others. You refuse to take responsibility for your own situations. You're pushing it on everyone else. Right? We do that, right? And instead of just owning it and doing what we're supposed to do, we do like Cain and we just lash out and we hurt other people. Even though it starts with us. See, if you want to make a mess out of your life, just do what Cain did. I promise it'll happen. If you just pout when things don't go your way, if you ignore God when things are tough, and you blame and lash out at others, it'll be a continuous cycle that I promise will wreck your life quicker than anything else. It'll destroy your life and just make things a mess. But here's what's so cool about God. What I love about God more than anything. Doesn't matter where you've been, doesn't matter how much of a mess you've made out of your life, no matter how many times you've messed up, God can still bless your mess. God can still bless your mess. That's why I love this story so much, even though there's murder and jealousy and bitterness and all that. Cain finally kind of sees, you know what, I've messed up. I've kind of done wrong. I've not handled this the right way, so he turns to God. And it says this, Cain said to the Lord, my punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me. But the Lord said to him, not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over. Then the Lord put a mark on Cain so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod, east of Eden. Here's what's so great about God. Cain goes to God and he said, God, I've messed up. I've done wrong. I've dealt with these stresses the wrong way. And these consequences are too much for me. And what God does is says, you know what? I got your back. I'm here for you. It doesn't matter what you've done. No matter where you've been. I'm here for you. And I'm ready. I'm here to help you move forward in your life. And what's so interesting to me is that God doesn't take away the consequences. Cain still has to deal with the consequences, right? Of his sin, of his stress, of dealing with things the wrong way. He has to leave and go out, and his life is forever changed. But even within the consequences, even within the mess that he's created with his life, God still blessed him. And God still used him. So I don't know where you are in that sequence. I don't know how big of a mess you made of your life. Take comfort to know because of what Jesus has done for us, because of how much God loves us and his mercy and his grace, that God can still bless your life. God can still have a purpose for your life. It doesn't matter how messy it is, God can still mess your your stress. Here's the thing, just like this pop can. When you're stressed out, when you deal with situations that don't quite go the way you want, it's just like shaking a pop can. Inside, that pressure builds up and builds up and builds up. And then eventually someone's going to pop the tap and it's going to explode, right? And we have different ways to deal with it. Some of us, we kind of bottle it up. Some of us just go nuts all the time. And we deal with it the wrong way, right? How many of you guys do this at the top of a pop can to try to keep it from exploding on you? Doesn't work, does it? Stupidest thing, I think it makes it worse. Doesn't work. That's how most of us treat stress. We keep doing the same old thing, thinking it's going to help things, but it's not. It's going to make it worse. You know, I'm going to give you guys a little science lesson today, too. It's like 2-for-1 deal this morning. You know, if you actually tap the side of a can, it actually does, like it reduces the pressure inside the can. So if you do like this, just a few times, you're only supposed to do it like 6 or 9 times, but I'm going to do it like 24 because there's carpet and equipment. I've successfully done this twice, so I really hope this works again. Whoever cleans the carpet's getting really jittery right now. It's like, oh, I don't know about this guy. I have a carpet cleaner. I'll go get it after the service if it doesn't work. But if you deal with stress the right way, if you deal with the pressure the right way, when it starts to come out, a little bit, it doesn't explode, doesn't make a mess. First service, clap for me because that's pretty amazing, right? Okay. Just like, I'm going to set that there so I don't kick it over and like have to buy all you guys new sound equipment. But here's the deal. Just like that pop can, we deal with it the wrong way all the time. We keep going through the well and it doesn't work. We're thinking, man, why is my life just such a mess? Why do I keep messing things up? When God says, you're just doing it the wrong way. You've been dealing with your stress. You've been dealing with that pressure the wrong way over and over and over again. But there's a right way to deal with that pressure. There's a right way to deal with that stress. So real quick, 3 ways to kind of allow God to bless your mess, to kind of keep the stress from overcoming your life. The first, instead of pouting when things don't go your way, learn to be content. And notice I say learn to be content. If I could tell you how to be content, I would. I don't know. I'm learning just as much as anyone else. But that's the key. Learn to be content whatever's going on in your life. Just know, you know what? There's the situation. It's not how I'd want it, but I have to learn to deal with it and go on. The second one is this. Learn to seek guidance from God. Learn to seek guidance from God. Listen, God has a purpose God can have a purpose behind the things that are stressing you out. So turn to Him. Don't just, go ahead and tell Him what you want to happen. Then also I say, God, if that's not what you want, God, show me what you want. Teach me. Help me to grow. Help me to learn. God, because I know you can do great things in this situation, even if I can't see it. So don't push God away. Learn to seek guidance from Him. And the third thing, instead of blaming and lashing out at others, learn to lean on other people in your life. Learn to lean on other people in your life. Don't push your spouse away. Don't push your kids away, your parents away, your pastor away, your people at church away, your friends, your coworkers away. Don't push them away by lashing out at them, by blaming them for your own dysfunction. Instead, ask them to help you. Listen, I didn't share as much in the first service, but Mom and Dad got divorced when I was 5. My mom got remarried and divorced when I was in high school. So my mom was literally a single mom working on practically a minimum wage salary, trying to raise 2 teenagers when I was in high school. You're dealing with all the things that we wanted to do and we had, but my mom was there for us, and she couldn't handle it on her own. So I had people like my grandfather that was there to help me. I had people from my church that was there to help me. I learned early on in my life to learn how to lean on other people, and it's not always easy. Sometimes pride gets in the way and things like that. We want to push people away and, man, I can do this myself, but don't. When things get stressful, it's all the more reason why the time when you need to bring people closer to you. Learn to lean on others. So learn to be content. Learn to seek guidance from God, and learn to lean on others. I became a Christian when I was like 14 or 15 years old. I was a young teenager, and I had a friend, actually my friend who's a youth pastor in Ironton. We went to middle school and high school and even college together. And we're still great friends. I watched the Ohio State National Championship with him just the other day. Go Bucks, anyone? OH? All right, yeah. One of my best friends, really half my life now. And he invited me to a church camp. He wasn't really involved in church, but he's going to church camp, and he invited me to his church, and I became a Christian. And God impacted my life there, and it really got a hold of me. And I saw God's grace and God's love for me and all these things, and got involved in this old country church, small church, traditional church type that I went to, and got involved there. And we didn't have a youth pastor or anything, but we had a pastor there. He's in his 50s. A little bit of an older guy to a teenager. Not calling you 50-year-olds old, but to a teenager, this was an older guy. And but he literally just invested in us like 4 or 5 teenage boys. He hung out with us. He got us food. And, got us things. Just kind of told us about God. Taught us about how to be a Christian. All these different things. And going up to that point, I didn't know what a Christian was. I didn't grow up in church. Didn't know anything about God. As a matter of fact, when I went to that church camp, the very first thing was like this Bible lesson that we went to, and we had this Bible, and the teacher said, turn to Romans. I'll never forget this. He said, turn to Romans. So I get my Bible that my mama just bought me from Walmart so I could go to church camp. And I'm flipping through. I start from the beginning, flipping through. No lie, I finally find Romans, and he said, now we're going to close in prayer. I said, oh, okay. Like, I knew nothing about the Bible, knew nothing about God. But this man was willing to build into, just invest in my life, and really looked up to him. So that went on for a couple years, and then 2 years later, it was my sophomore year in high school, found out that he had a brain tumor, had brain cancer. It was taking over his body. And actually, one of the things that I look back on the most fondly, he was our chaplain for our football team. And I actually got to bring him a game ball of the one game we won that year in football, where I was able to take to him. But even as a sophomore in high school, I thought, I got really angry at God. It's like, God, why would you allow this to happen? This isn't the way I would pick for things to go. This man, he's such a great man of God. He's doing so many great things. God, can't you understand what he could do for you if you allow him to just kind of be healthy and go and live his life? I couldn't understand it, and I got really upset. And I pouted, to be honest with you, a little bit. And I'll never forget, a year or so later, the last time I got to hear him speak. He was really weak. We had to bring up a big chair up beside the pulpit up on the stage, on the platform for him to sit in. He couldn't stand up to speak. And you could tell like the cancer had just taken over his mind. He wasn't thinking clearly. He just wasn't. It's just kind of a shell of this former man I looked up to so much. Never forget, he was kind of, a third of the way through his sermon or something like that, and he kind of got tripped up. He's kind of stuttering around, and he's starting to flip through his Bible when he can't find his place, and it's kind of that awkward silence. You guys know, like the awkward silence, like when no one's talking, and man, your heart just goes out to the guy because he's up there and he's confused and he's trying his best, and you know how like hard that would be, and you're just kind of feeling for him, and you're also thinking, Texas Roadhouse is going to get really busy here in a few minutes, so we might go along. But man, you felt bad for him. You see this guy that was your hero, just up there, just a shell of himself, just struggling through this. And his brother, I remember his brother gets up and he's trying to find the verse that my pastor was looking for, and he couldn't find it. And he kept flipping through like Philippians, so his brother would say, here, Philippians 4:13, because we all always talk about Philippians 4:13, right? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. You guys probably have that on wristbands when you play sports, and so like we have that everywhere. So my pastor's getting real agitated. He's like, no, that's not what I want. So he's looking and flipping, and he's like just getting really angry and really upset. And man, you're just like, your heart's breaking for him. It's like 10 minutes this goes on. Seems like eternity, right? Just forever, and you're just like, oh, just heartbroken. It's like, man, someone pull the plug, throw the tail. Like, let's not put him through this. Until finally, he finally finds his verse. And I'll never forget this. It was Philippians 4:11, so close to 4:13, but 4:11. It says this, I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. For I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. And I still, to this day, when I tell that story, just now I got chill bumps, remembering, as a sophomore in high school, watching this man who far too soon had this disease that was taking over his body, that was kind of ripping him away from us. We thought we needed him so much. We looked up to him so much. And I remember looking at this man who cancer had literally taken over his life and would just soon, just a couple months later, actually take his life. And say, you know what I've learned? Like Paul in the Bible, I've learned that no matter what comes my way, I'm going to be content. But I'm going to learn to lean on God. And I'm going to trust Him. I'm going to lean on these people around me. Because that's the only way to live. Because if you don't, if you allow these other things to take over your life, if you allow the stress to build up the pressure in your life, it'll explode and make a mess. It'll destroy your life. It'll steal not only your joy, it'll steal the joy out of everyone around you. The way you live your life affects the people in your life. Here's what I know about God. God can bless your mess. And if you deal with the stress in your life, if you deal with things that happen in your life the way that God wants you to do, instead of the way that Cain did, the legacy that you leave, the witness for God that you leave to the generations beyond you will reverberate throughout history longer than you are on this earth, far beyond the time you're on this earth. To this day, I still think back to that moment when my pastor got up and said, you know what? This isn't what I would choose. This isn't how I pick. Things are not going my way, but I've learned to trust God. Because that's the only way to do it. So I don't know what stress, I don't know what you're dealing with today. I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what you're struggling with. I don't even know how many times you've allowed stress to make a mess out of your life. I have no clue. But I know this without a shadow of a doubt, that God sent His Son Jesus to die on the cross for you because He loves you and He cares about you. And He has a purpose and a plan for you. It doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what consequences you'll have to deal with for the rest of your life. All that matters is that God has a purpose, a plan, and God can still bless your mess. I'll ask Linda and the musicians to come up as we close in prayer. Just real quick, if you would, just bow your heads with me. I'll pray for us today. Dear God, I just thank you so much for the opportunity to be here. Just thank you so much for this church that is willing to serve and love on the people of this community. God, we have so much work to do to serve the people of this area. But God, it excites me to know the potential that you have. And God, more than anything, God, I know that you have a plan and a purpose for every individual in this room. You have a plan for my church, C3, and for this church. You have a plan for South Point, for Lawrence County, for the Tri-State area. And God, so often we allow stress, we allow the hecticness and the busyness of life to just kind of wreck our life and to make a mess of things. But God, I pray that starting today, God, we take this seriously. That we deal with stress the right way. That we take control of our lives and learn, God, to not pout when things don't go our way, God, but we learn to be content whatever our circumstances. God, that we have learned how to seek guidance from you. And God, we've learned to lean on each other instead of pushing each other away. God, that's my prayer for everyone here today, God. And then my prayer also is that, God, if today's the day for one of your people here in this auditorium to accept you as their Savior for the very first time, God, I pray that they would do that today as well. God, I just thank you so much for this opportunity. And I thank you so much for sending your Son Jesus to die on the cross for us, so that we can have life, we can have a purpose. And that's all in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, guys, if you have anything to pray for, I'd be happy to pray with you. If you want to come up, and I know there's probably leaders here as well. We'd love to pray for you as well. Say one song.
We hope that you have been ministered to by today's sermon. Our prayer and hope is that you find comfort and encouragement in these words, as well as instruction and correction.